Today, we're diving into one of the most famous miracles in the Gospels, but we're going to look at it through a really fascinating lens, as a kind of miraculous rehearsal for something much, much bigger. We are talking about the bread of life. So let me just start with this question. What if a miracle you've heard about a dozen times wasn't just a random act of power? What if it was actually a carefully planned performance with a full dress rehearsal centuries earlier? That's the whole idea we're digging into today. Now, to really get what's going on, we need a key concept, the pattern miracle. Think of it like this. An event happens in the Old Testament that creates a very specific template, a kind of structure of actions and outcomes that gets picked up later and fulfilled on a much grander, more profound scale. Okay, so to see this pattern in action, we have to go way back. Our prototype, our rehearsal, starts with the prophet Elisha in this incredible story of impossible provision from the book of 2 Kings. So here's the scene. It's a time of severe famine. A man comes to Elisha with a gift of first fruits, 20 barley loaves. I mean, it's a generous gift, for sure. But here's the problem. Elisha has 100 hungry men with him. You just look at the math, and it doesn't work. Not even close. Elisha's servant says what everyone's thinking. He voices that obvious, logical objection. How can I possibly set this before 100 men, right? He's looking at the physical reality, the scarcity of it all, and he just sees an impossible task. His doubt is that purely human perspective. But Elisha, well, he's operating on a whole different level, and he establishes this incredibly clear 4-step pattern. First, a command that makes no sense, give it to the people. Second, a prophetic promise. They will eat and have some left over. Third, the miracle itself, the food multiplies. And fourth, you have the leftovers, a tangible sign that something supernatural just happened. You got to remember this pattern. Okay, now let's fast forward a few hundred years. Jesus steps onto the scene, and he takes this exact same 4-step pattern and performs it on a mind-blowing scale. For anyone who knew their scriptures, this would have been absolutely unmistakable. This is the fulfillment. And when you put them side by side, the parallels are they're stunning. Elisha had 20 loaves for 100 men. Jesus has only 5 for 5,000 people, not even counting women and children. Elisha's servant doubted. Jesus' own disciples doubt. Both give the command to distribute the food. And in both stories, everyone eats their fill, and there are leftovers. But just look at the scale. The leftovers from Jesus' miracle, 12 full baskets, are way more than the original meal itself. And just to make absolutely sure no one misses the point, he does it a second time with the feeding of the 4,000. This is not a one-off thing. It's not some happy coincidence. No, this is a deliberate, repeated messianic sign. Jesus is intentionally performing this prophetic pattern. Now, the gospel writers, and especially John, they don't leave this connection up to chance. They actually embed these very specific textual clues into their accounts to make sure that anyone familiar with the Elijah story would immediately see the link. So, what is this major clue? It's one of those tiny details that's so easy to just read right past. In his account, John makes a point of telling us the exact type of bread. The boy has 5 barley loaves, and believe me, that is not a random detail about his lunch. So why does barley matter so much? Well, first off, it was known as the poor man's bread, which highlights the humility of the whole situation. But here's the real kicker. It's the exact same type of bread from Elisha's miracle. By including that one word, John is creating a direct textual hyperlink right back to 2 Kings 4. He's practically shouting, hey, pay attention. This is that, but so much greater. It's a signal identifying Jesus as a prophet like Elisha, but infinitely superior. And here's the proof that the signal was received loud and clear. Look at how the crowd reacts. They don't immediately say this is the Messiah. Their very first thought is, this is truly the prophet. The Elijah-type prophet they've been waiting for, the one Moses promised way back in Deuteronomy. They got the pattern. But here's the thing. Jesus doesn't just want them to see him as a new Elisha. The physical miracle, that's just the opening act. He immediately pivots from the physical to the theological, escalating the meaning of the sign from temporary bread to something eternal. And here's the core of that escalation. Elisha, the prototype, provided temporary physical bread to save 100 people from starving for one day. Jesus, the fulfillment, uses that same pattern not just to provide a meal, but to declare himself the eternal, spiritual bread of life for the entire world. This is really the key takeaway. The miracle isn't ultimately about solving a logistical problem of feeding a crowd. It's a symbolic act, a living parable designed to point to Jesus' true identity. It's the physical setup for the profound spiritual teaching he's about to give in his famous I am the bread of life speech. So what is it? What's the ultimate identity that this pattern miracle is declaring? Well, it's a completely radical shift in how God provides for his people. See, in the Old Testament pattern, God provides food through his representative, the prophet Elijah. But in the New Testament fulfillment, the revelation is infinitely more personal, way more profound. God isn't just sending provision anymore, he is providing himself as the provision. And you can actually see this as a grand progression through the whole biblical story. It starts with Moses and manna from heaven. It gets refined with Elisha, where bread is multiplied through a prophet. Then it climaxes with Jesus, who is the bread made flesh. And finally, it's memorialized at the Last Supper, where that bread becomes the sign of a new covenant. You could really boil this entire theological escalation down to one simple, powerful statement. Elisha gave bread. Jesus is the bread. One is an act of provision, the other is a statement of identity.
So in the end, that story in 2 Kings 4 was so much more than just a historical account of a cool miracle. The Old Testament event established the pattern, it was the rehearsal. And the New Testament event, that was the full-blown revelation, the moment God revealed the true source of all life.
And that really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. If this one subtle parallel, a connection that hinged on a single word like barley, can reveal such a profound truth, it just makes you wonder, right? What other signs, what other rehearsals are hidden in plain sight, just waiting for us to discover them?